The Cincinnati Reds have a new king of the outfield, and his name is Tommy Pham. We'll break down how he fits on this team and which current Red should probably be packing his bags.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, and thank you for joining us for this special bonus edition of the Locked On Reds podcast. I'm Stephen Offenbaker alongside Jeff Carr, and we have a passion for baseball, a passion for the Cincinnati Reds, and we are turning that passion into information for you. On today's bonus episode, we are going to talk about the Reds making a signing that improves the outfield. As a matter of fact, it is a fantastic signing, Jeff. I think that the Reds went out and brought in a player that is probably, as of today, the best player in the outfield.
Yeah, and you're looking at a dude that's probably going to slot at the top of the lineup. Folks are going to look at his numbers last year and say, well, he was only okay. What are you talking about? He only hit 229. But he is a right-handed hitter throughout his career who has mashed lefties. He didn't do it very much last year, but throughout the course of his career, he has. And that is a huge get for this Reds team. The reported parameters of the deal make him the sixth highest paid Red on the team once everything all goes through, because it is a 1-year contract with a mutual option for 2023, so both parties, both Tommy Pham and the Reds, would have to agree to pick that up, and there's a $1.5 million buyout, so at the very least, this is a $7.5 million contract. That's the numbers.
There's a lot of interesting things about his numbers, Jeff. You know, as you alluded to, he may slot in right to the top of this lineup. You look at his numbers last year while playing for the Padres, he hit 15 home runs with 49 RBIs, and you have to think those numbers will go up playing at Great American Ballpark. And not only does he have a little bit of pop in his bat, but he's able to draw a walk and get on base. I know his walk rate amongst the league was in the top 5%.
He is, and the other thing that I forgot to put in our notes is something that I saw last night. He's in the top 10 of hitters with the lowest chase rate since 2017. Guess who's number one? Number 19. Employee 19. So, I mean, we got two guys in the top 10 of the lowest chase rate. That's nice to see, especially in a day and age where people don't really care how much you strike out. We got a couple of guys that do, although, you know, Joey has mentioned being more aggressive, and he has been more aggressive, but still, having Tommy Pham at the top of your lineup is not going to hurt you. It's probably going to help you at least, unless, you know, Nixon's blows up like we talked about on today's podcast, but still, like, you're looking at a bona fide best outfielder. You don't have to squint and say, well, if he bounces back or if he does it just right. No, he is as of this moment.
You know, and I know that we're heading into his age 34 season, but I don't feel like there'll be very much drop off between what he put up last year and what he can put up this year. And as you kind of alluded to, his career numbers, they're not bad. I mean, I know his numbers last year took a bit of a dip, but, you know, career versus lefties of slash line of 277, 403, 451. That's exactly what this team needs right now. We've been asking who is going to go out there and face the left-handed pitching, and I think they finally went out and got a guy that everybody can agree with what's available and the money that they were willing to spend. This was the right signing at the right time.
So let's just chalk up another example of if they play to the back of their baseball card. Yeah, we got another one in there for that. And with Tommy Pham, too, he actually has a pretty nice career average at Great American Ballpark. For what it's worth, that doesn't mean a whole lot. But when he plays under the power stacks, he has a 366 career average. That's some good stuff. I'll take that all day. I mean, if he's going to hit like that at home and he's going to do that against left-handed pitching, and to be honest, it's weird, his splits kind of reversed a little bit last year. He was better against right-handed pitching. You usually figure right-handers lose it against, this guy's going to play every day. That's a huge thing with this. Honestly, and it's so weird to say this, in an off-season of subtraction, the Reds went out and made a good addition. I would have liked to have seen it, you know, whenever they weren't getting rid of everybody, but hey, you know, nice move. Well,
you know, I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff, because I want to throw you a little curveball here because it's not in our show notes, but do you have any idea what it is that this team is doing? I go back and forth and I'm really at a loss for what the heck is happening with this front office.
Well, and there was some grumblings and maybe some murmurings and thoughts about, well, maybe the Reds signed Tommy Pham and maybe the Reds brought in Mike Minor and did all this stuff so that, they could play well and at the deadline they can flip them for more prospects. I don't think so. I think the front office looks at these. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Go.
Because I was going to say, I think the front office looks at these moves and thinks that this is a playoff contending team.
Well, and I that's what Nick Krall said, and he said it with a straight face, bless his heart. So maybe that really is what he thinks. And built into this contract with Tommy Pham is he gets a roster, an assignment bonus. If he's traded during this contract, he gets more money. So, we know how Bob is about giving away free money. So I think that their intention is to keep him here at least through the 1 year of the contract and then buy it out if they have to.
Is the assignment bonus the new no trade clause?
Kind of so. Well, when you're talking about Bob Castellini, yes, it is.
Definitely when you're talking about Bob Castellini. I think Tommy Pham, though, regardless, is a good addition for this Reds team that was an entire roster full of fourth outfielders. Why they made that good addition with Pham, the Reds must now make a roster move as the 40-man roster was already at its limit before they signed him. Aristides Aquino looks to be the odd man out. We'll discuss next. You want to know what else is fantastic? The best source for news, scores, and odds and props and lines on the internet. BetOnline. Check out BetOnline today. In fact, I'll give you an updated line for the Reds win total. The over-under is currently set now at 73.5 games. I was telling you 76.5 kind of sounded high. That was before Tommy Pham came here. Then they lowered it to 73.5. And Tommy Pham got signed. I'm crushing the over, baby. I just put $100 on that. Go check it out today at BetOnline. That's the over-under 73.5 on the Cincinnati Reds win total in 2022. BetOnline has you covered, whether you're talking about Major League Baseball with all their different futures. You can bet on awards and who's going to make the playoffs, who's going to win the World Series, all that great stuff. And all that, and you also got NHL, NBA. We're heading toward the playoffs with NBA. It's almost draft time for the NFL. You can bet on that too. That's all at BetOnline. They've got you covered every single season. Plus, they've got amazing offers every season as well. You're not going to want to miss it. It's betonline.net is where the game starts. Thanks for checking out, by the way, this extra edition of the Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure you're following us on all platforms, including YouTube. If you're watching us here today, make sure you're subscribed. A lot of great stuff coming for you this season. Look, I cannot promise you that the Reds are going to make the playoffs. I cannot promise you that the Reds are going to be a above 500 team or even a 500 team. I'm going to tell you one thing, though. It's going to be interesting, because this offseason has not been boring at all, as we have tried to figure out what the heck is going on here as they sell off a bunch of players, they add in a bunch of other players. Here we are again. But with all of these moves, Steve, and this is something that they kind of made a move the other day to avoid arbitration with Aristides Aquino, and he's on the 40-man roster. The 40-man roster is at its limit, so somebody's going to have to come off if you're going to add Tommy Pham, and I cannot imagine they would get rid of a different position group, a player from a different position group than the outfield, so that's where I'm thinking that Aquino's probably the odd man out here, even though considering there's still Shogo Akiyama in the room. I just know, kind of like you said, Bob Castellini don't like to pay people for not doing anything.
I struggle with this one because even with the addition of Tommy Pham, I feel like they need to keep one more right-handed bat available in that outfield. And right now that's Aristides Aquino, unless there's some other move to be had. Or like I talked about on today's podcast, if they're scouring the waiver wires and find the right situation at the last minute. But right now I think it's Aquino. And I mean, I can't imagine they'd be willing to just write Akiyama a check and let him go. But if they're doing it based on team need and performance overall, I think Shogo's your guy. I think he's the guy that should be sent back to Japan because he's just not working out.
I mean, I got to be honest. There's Naquin. I think Friedel is above Shogo on this roster when it comes to the outfield. I mean, you've got those two left-handed bats. You've got Max Schrock, who can play left field. I mean, if we really need him to. And he's a left-handed bat as well. I just don't know where he fits on this roster. In a perfect world, this would not be about money. It would be about roster construction. We all know Bob Castellini doesn't live in that perfect world. So it's going to be weird. And I actually misspoke. Aristides Aquino he didn't avoid arbitration. He's pre-arbitration eligible. So he's not even making that much. He's making league minimum. So it's one of those things because you always hear these national writers who are analytics focused, these analytical baseball writers always say for the last couple of years, they're like, Aristides Aquino might be a sleeper. Now, we're not saying he's going to be good, but he could blow up. It's one of those like cover your ass comments where he's just like, yeah, okay, they could be good, could be bad. But if he is good, we're calling it. And if he's not good, then don't come calling to us.
Well, I know that defensively, I'm not worried about having him out there. He plays a good right field. He's got a great arm. So defensively, I don't think he's a liability. Offensively, he is a problem. But again, I come back to that right-handed bat. Now, maybe if Jose Barrero wasn't hurt and you could kind of rely on having him when you needed an extra bat, I would say that Aquino's a no-brainer, so to speak. But because Barrero is injured and because I do think you need that extra right-handed bat, I would like to see them release Shogo Akiyama, and then when Jose Barrero is healthy, we take another hard look at how Aquino has performed, and maybe he's the next one to go after that in order to free up a spot for Jose Barrero.
And I know that there is some examples of them like eating some money. Like I know they got rid of Matt Kemp when it made no sense that he was even on the roster. I mean that he was in that trade so that the trade could get done. But they ate his contract after seeing that it just wasn't going to work out. But I wonder. I don't know. And I would hate to say goodbye to Aquino. I've said this many times. I cannot be objective about the man. I know that he can't see a curveball to save his life, and I know that a third of his career hits are home runs. I was looking this up the other day. He has 94 career hits, and he has 31 home runs. Like, that's an insane ratio. But I don't know. Like, I would still love some reason for him to be on the roster. Now, with 28 players, who knows? This could work out, and they might be getting rid of somebody else that we're not talking about right now. But I think it's between these two guys. I think it's either Aquino or Akiyama. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. But the end of the day, we got Tommy Pham. We got a legit outfielder. So this is a good problem to have.
Oh, absolutely. And I wanted to make sure that we spent some time talking about Pham today, Jeff. I'm glad we were able to put out this bonus edition. It was one of those instances where we had recorded before the news broke. So I'm glad
we were
that
on the ball. What happened?
We were on the ball for a change. But I'm glad we were able to get together and do this. We will have a lot more about Tommy Pham joining this team in tomorrow's regularly scheduled episode. We will also dig into some of the best performances of the spring thus far, but I do want to talk about one for just a second because I know you saw it. I saw it. The grand slam from future superstar Elly De La Cruz. He absolutely mashed that ball. And I know everybody's getting really excited, and I don't think this is the year that we see him, but man, he looks good. He looks good, Jeff.
That's something that's going to, I gotta temper my expectations a little bit because we're not going to see him this year. It's too early. Maybe next year, maybe in 2 years, and that's what always gets me about baseball and getting excited about prospects. But here we are. I mean, this dude is awesome. And there's so many people out there that are talking about, hey, this grand slam in spring training sure might not mean a hill of beans, but this is just another example. Reds fans, get ready. This dude is coming, and this dude is good.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, I think that's probably a great spot to go ahead and wrap up this emergency podcast for today. We will be back in everyone's podcast and YouTube feeds with our regularly scheduled episode tomorrow. Thanks so much for making the Locked On Reds podcast your first and second listen of the day today. We really do appreciate you. And I am looking forward to watching this completely crazy, unconventional, undeterminable what they're doing Reds team the rest of the way in 2022, Jeff. We are screaming towards opening day. I have no clue what Nick Krall is doing, but tell the people what we're going to be doing every day.
We are going to be locked on Reds every single day. We're going to be locked on these chaos Reds.